Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 122 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to record. We just got done doing our TCAT episode.
We did.
On the Cheshire murders.
Brutal.
It's a brutal one. It's a rough case. You know, you're talking about a family at home, asleep in the middle of the night, a home invasion.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just gets, it goes off the rails from there. And, you know, 3 of the 4 family members die, but it's the, you know, the specifics around it and just how could this happen?
Well, and I think you can embed yourself into the situation and makes you think about some things.
No, it definitely does. Makes you want to keep your head on a swivel for sure.
Yeah. Keep it on a swivel.
All right. So we have some new Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
We had Victoria Reuter, Kimberly.
Hey, Kimberly.
Dylan Landquist.
Ooh, Landquist.
Celestial Gitano.
Ooh, Gitano.
Kimberly Philbates.
Hey, Kimberly.
Susan Mangasi.
Ooh, Mangasi.
Kirsty.
Hey, what's up, Kirsty?
Dave Dupras.
Hey, Dave.
Kat.
What's going on, Kat?
Beth Edwards.
Hey, Beth.
Laura Olson.
Laura?
I'm going to say Laura.
Laura.
Shannon Barber.
Hey, Shannon.
Derek Halley.
Hey, Derek.
Christine.
What's going on, Christine?
Tess Byler.
Ooh, Tess.
Mike with 3 exclamation points.
What's up, Mike?
Z Wiznant.
Z.
Vicky Diane.
What's up, Vicky?
And Diane. Vanessa Truelove.
Hey, True Love.
Cynthia Cooper.
What up, Cynthia?
Lauren Anstis.
Ooh, Anstis.
Sophie Ann Nacer.
Hey, Sophie Ann.
Giggles.
Just
Giggles.
Giggles.
Yep. And then Mary Beth Long, you know, one of our biggest Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
I think she took it personally when, you know, our big supporter from Greece, you know, jumped over her and she had to come back and reclaim that top spot.
Well, thank you for that.
So, yeah, we appreciate that. If we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Michelle Jolly. Been with us a long time. Long-time Patreon supporter.
She's one of our more happier people.
Yeah, she's jolly.
Yeah.
We appreciate all that new support, the continued Patreon support. We're doing a lot of new stuff on Patreon. You know, some video. We got a lot of stuff planned. We also had some PayPal support as well. Chelsea Camp, Mary Ashley, Heather Allen, and Molly Hildebrand.
That's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Very, very good. All right. I already talked about what was on TCAT out right now. When this episode comes out, we will have just passed your birthday, Gibbs.
Yeah.
So we're recording a little early. I'll tell you happy birthday now, but Sunday when this comes out, it'll be 2-3 days past your birthday.
And we'll be back from Chicago.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we're going to Chicago this weekend. So we got a lot going on. A lot of good stuff. I think we'll meet a lot of fans this weekend. I'm excited about that.
Windy City.
Maybe get a big steak.
Get a big steak.
Get a nice steakhouse.
We can go to Gibson's and get a big old steak. It's a great steakhouse, man.
Is it? I've never been there.
Yeah. It's just not too far away from, what's the sports announcer? Famous Chicago sports announcer.
Harry Carey.
Yeah, he's got a good steakhouse too.
Does he?
Yeah.
Well, he did. He's no longer
alive.
alive.
The steakhouse is still there, but yeah.
When he was alive, he had a good steak.
Yeah.
All right, man. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. In honor of your birthday, we'll do it good.
We always do it good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about the disappearance of Robert Levinson. And when you proposed this episode, Gibbs, I got really excited. You know, I don't know where you pulled this from or where you found it.
Like I do all of them, man.
I know, you're a genius. But, you know, when I started to do a little bit of digging, I got pretty excited because there's a lot going on. You know, you've got the FBI, the CIA. We're in multiple countries. We're in the Middle East. It's just a very fascinating, mysterious case. So let's dive right in, right? The disappearance of Robert Levinson. He was a retired American FBI agent, disappeared in Iran. of all places, in 2007. This guy had an amazing background, very impressive. But I think one place where the mystery really shows itself is that, both governments, the U.S. as well as Iran, has their own theory of what happened to Robert Levinson and where he is today. All right, let's talk a little bit about Robert, Bob, right? He went by Bob. Bob was born on March 10th, 1948 in Flushing, New York. Not a ton of personal information, background information out there, but we do know that he attended and graduated from the City College of New York City, which is part of New York University. He earned a BA in 1970. Bob eventually met and married Christine Gorman, and they went on to have 7 children.
7 kids, man.
It's a lot.
That's a whole lot of kids, man.
For me, that's a lot. Now, a lot of people dream of having a huge family.
Sure.
Being older and having your adult kids all come to the house and having all the grandkids.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But to take care of 7 children and to pay for 7 children to get to that point where you can enjoy all, that is a lot.
That's a lot of work, man.
You are I thought with 2 kids, we were sacrificing a lot.
Sure. Well, I feel the same way.
You remember back in the day, everybody has friends that don't have any kids. And sometimes you'd see that friend and they would have a brand new sports car.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, well, gee whiz, I could have a brand new sports car too if I wasn't paying $800 a month in diapers and formula. Yeah. And
like that sports car represents Johnny here. That motorcycle represents Susie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I love my kids.
Well, that's the thing.
You love your kids. So
right. People with kids say when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade it for the world. Would sacrifice whatever they had to.
Yeah, because you could not imagine not having your kids in your life.
No, but it doesn't change the fact that every now and then you might look at one of your friends without kids and say, you know what, buddy?
Yeah.
I could have everything you have.
Yeah.
And more.
And more. Wasn't for them damn kids sitting in there not cleaning the room right now.
Braces. No. And then you get into college, weddings. Don't get me started, man. Yeah. I got some of that coming.
Oh, you got a lot of that coming. You got 2 girls, man.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So the 7 children, Douglas, Samantha, David, Daniel, Sarah, Stephanie, and Susan. So they went all S's and D's, right? The boys all have D names and the girls all have S names. I actually think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Although I think sometimes it would be confusing. And I guarantee you that you would call some of them by the wrong name.
Well, my dad always just said, hey, you. And he looked at all of us, and whoever moved first is who he decided would make them do whatever he needed done.
Well, it's a heck of a lot better than hey, stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, you is not the worst thing.
Hey, you.
Hey, stupid's pretty bad, especially when all the kids turn around. Me?
Well, especially if you're the only kid in there when they say it, then it's really bad.
Yeah. Bob started his career working for the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, in the early 70s. And, pretty quickly, over a number of years, he rose up through the ranks during the 70s. And then he caught the attention of the FBI. And the FBI wanted Bob to join them, and they hired him in the late 1970s. And he went on to build, like we said, a very impressive career with them. This was an impressive guy.
Oh, he really was. He was one of those people that could take in a lot of information, analyze it, and actually be able to do something with that information.
Process it and use it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he was a lot like me. I got you.
Yeah, he was a lot like you. Yep. He also specialized in Russian affairs, not only here in the United States, but also over in Russia. So he had extreme knowledge of who the players were, especially the Russian gangs, the Russian mafia that was set up in America. So he had a very good understanding of how they operated and how things came and went in and out of the country.
Yeah, I think he was an expert, right, in Russian affairs, especially when it came to criminal enterprises, gangs, the mafia over there.
But like you were saying, he definitely had a amazing career, and would retire in 1998 from the FBI. So I think anybody today that can stay with one company and end up retiring with them, that says a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do today.
Oh, absolutely.
Evidenced by the guy that you're sitting across the
Yeah,
the computer from.
it was at the place that you used to work, and I still am. We had a lady that worked there for 50 years that retired last week. 50 years. You never would hear that today.
No.
I don't think any place.
No. I mean, you mean if somebody started today?
Yes.
Chances of somebody staying 50 years from today? No. And it's twofold, right? You don't have the loyalty on either side.
No.
You definitely don't have the loyalty from a lot of the companies anymore, but you don't have the loyalty from a lot of the employees because they know the loyalty, is not on the business side either. So if there's a better opportunity, they're jumping.
Yep.
And I don't blame them. I did the same thing.
Yeah. And to be honest, right? If you want to make more money and, grow yourself, you kind of got to jump around.
You almost have to nowadays. So I think the key, and we said it, Bob was an impressive guy. He had an impressive career. He was good everywhere he went. He really only had a couple of jobs, if you think about it, both government jobs, DEA and the FBI. After Bob retired, he began a career as a private investigator. And he did that from 1990 to about 2007. And it was in 2006 that he was hired by a man named Tim Sampson as a contractor for the CIA's Office of Transnational Issues for the Illicit Finance Group. They paid him a boatload of money. It was $85,000.
Yeah, good money back then.
As a contractor to write reports for the CIA. But again, this was his kind of area of expertise. I don't believe it was all related to Russia, Gibbs, but it was related to, gangs, illicit money. Tim Sampson and two other CIA employees, they later got fired. They overstepped their authority.
Yeah, a little bit there.
And you have to respect my authority.
And when you work for a big government agency like that, there's certain procedures that you have to follow.
Well, and these guys also came under attack later for not coming forward immediately when Bob Levinson went missing and really kind of saying or explaining what his role was as a contractor for the CIA.
Right.
Because that's not, I don't think he wasn't like carrying around a business card that said, "Hey, I work for the CIA."
No.
Most people don't.
Yeah, we know that for sure.
Well, you do.
We know that for sure.
So in 2007, Bob went back to his private practice and he was hired by a client to investigate cigarette smuggling in the Middle East.
Must be big business smuggling them cigarettes.
Sure.
Cigarette smuggler.
Think back to Goodfellas, man. They were selling those cigarettes right off the truck.
Oh, that's right, man.
Making all kinds of money.
Yeah.
It was on March 8th, 2007. Bob traveled to the Kish Island in Iran, and he stayed at a local hotel. During this stay, Bob ran into an American fugitive named Dawood Salahuddin. This guy was formerly known as David Theodore Belfield, lived in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, before he converted to Islam. Right. Nothing wrong with any of that. The problem with Dawood is in 1980, he killed a critic of Khomeini.
So he took out somebody that didn't agree with the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shot him at his home in Bethesda, Maryland. I guess this guy posed as a mailman. So really what you have here is this is an Iranian assassination that occurred on U.S. soil.
By a American citizen.
Who had converted to Islam.
Right.
So that's kind of like a side thing. The important thing is this was the last person to see Bob, I'll say, as a free man. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
On March 9th, 2007. Bob's friends and family became concerned that they hadn't heard from him in a while. They started to reach out to the State Department. They started to reach out to the embassy for help in locating him. On June 1st of 2007, President George W. Bush told the press that he was disturbed by Iran's refusal to assist and provide any information about Bob's whereabouts. The president would state the following in the press, quote, "I call on Iran's leaders to tell us what they know about his whereabouts." So right off the bat, Gibbs, I mean, how many cases do we do that involve the president of the United States?
Not too many. So
not too many.
I mean, here he is coming out of the gate saying, "Hey, cooperate with us. Let us know where our citizen is at."
In December of that year, Bob's wife, Christine, along with some others, met with some government officials in Iran. At that meeting, they claimed to have no knowledge of what happened to Bob. And you have to imagine, Christine is devastated.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine what she was thinking. What the seven kids, right? 7 kids were thinking at the same time.
She's essentially not getting any news about her husband, doesn't know where he is. Nobody's telling her anything. She started to dig into the activity that Bob had with the CIA, the things that he was doing for the CIA. And this is when they discovered that Tim Sampson with the CIA had not come forth concerning Bob's involvement with that agency, and that his involvement with the CIA may very well have put him at risk.
Well, to the point that the CIA must have acknowledged this, because the CIA would eventually pay her out around $2 million to avoid any further lawsuit, negative press, anything like that.
So they paid Christine $2 million. Now, during this time, many U.S. officials claimed that Bob must have been arrested by Iranian intelligence officials. They believed that he was taken away somewhere, interrogated, and was being used as a pawn in negotiations with the U.S. government. But again, the family was getting very little, right? They would get a lead here and there, but by the time they got the lead and went to investigate it, there was nothing there. Either too much time had passed or there was nothing there to begin with.
Yeah, and then you also had the fact that the Iranian government, it seemed like at every turn, they just kept on denying, any knowledge about Bob being in their country, anything about him. Just deny.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Deny.
Exactly. And I think the more time went by, the more people, U.S. officials, even some of Bob's family, began to worry, and maybe even believe that Bob was probably killed.
Yeah. When someone's missing for a period of time, I mean, it's going to be natural to think, well, the reason we haven't seen him or heard from him or them is because the worst possible imagined thing has happened. They are now dead.
Man, don't ever go looking for me. You only go for like 5 minutes. Oh, he's dead.
He's dead.
You just write me off right away. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think it has to do with time. The more time goes by, and we talk about a lot of this on Unsolved. The more time goes by, the less the likelihood is that someone is alive. Now, there are people that defy that, right? There have been some girls recently. Right? You can think about the Ariel Castro situation up in Cleveland, or there's been a number of people that have been found over many years. But I don't think it's the norm. I think those are outliers. So on January 13th, 2009, Senator Bill Nelson, he made a public statement during a nomination hearing for Hillary Clinton as the new Secretary of State. He said, "Senator Clinton, you've already been briefed on this, but one of the things that you're going to face is that there is an American that is missing in Iran. I have gone to the Iranian ambassador at the United Nations, who will see me even though his government will not allow him to talk to our UN ambassador. He operates under the fiction that he will see me because I'm a representative of the people of the state of Florida. But the door has been closed at every turn. What I have said to him, and I speak through the lens of this committee hearing, that out of human compassion, this is a great opportunity for the country of Iran to crack the door, because we think he is being held by the government of Iran in a secret prison there. And if we want to have some renewed relations, this is a good first opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just trying to, one, get it out in the public so it goes into the news, media, gets back to Iran. But I also think, he's trying to tell her, hey, this is your new role. You're going to be the key person that has the opportunity to negotiate things like this. And it's been 2 years. Bob's been missing for 2 years. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, this is a guy that, retired from working for the government. It's a citizen of the United States. And I think, we deserve to know what happened to somebody when they're in a foreign country. And 2 years has gone by without an answer at that time. So I think the statement was probably spot on for the new Secretary of State to do something about it.
Well, and I think you said it, right? What better place to get your message out than in this hearing, the nomination hearing that a lot of people pay attention to? Just a little over 2 years later, March 3rd, 2011, Hillary Clinton is the Secretary of State. And she states that she has evidence that might show Bob is alive and being held as a prisoner in Southwest Asia. And it's just the next month, in April, that some pictures of Bob surface. He's got long hair, he has a full beard, and he was wearing an orange jumpsuit, kind of looked like a prison outfit.
Sure.
And he's holding some signs asking for help. So this is huge. They've been looking for this guy now for 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, some pictures surface that they believe are Bob. But here's the problem. There's no way to determine the date of the pictures. They could have been taken a month before in 2011. They could have been taken 4 years ago in 2007. Now, I think the length of the hair and the beard and all that gives you some
reference of time.
But not a lot. It's probably not a week after he went missing. You know that. In December of 2011, Bob's family came forward in the press, and this was against the advice of government officials. And they shared a video that they had received in November of 2010, over a year ago. They had this video in their possession for over a year. And this was what you would call, Gibbs, a proof of life video.
Yeah.
So let's hear some audio.
My name is David Levinson, and I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Christine Levinson, and my entire family. I am making a plea to the people that are holding my father. My mother has received your messages. Please tell us your demands so we can work together to bring my father home safely. Thank you for taking care of my father and for continuing to provide him with the care and medical treatment he needs to stay alive. My father is a loving and caring man who has always worked hard to provide for his family. He is a father of 7 children, a dear husband, a grandfather of 2 beautiful children, and the pillar of our family. We are not part of any government, and we are not experts on the region. No one can help us but you. Please help us. We tried to contact you, but you never responded. I am sending this message because we need to know what you want our family to do so that my father can come home safely. We will do everything within our power to bring him home. I don't know how else to communicate with you, but my father knows how to contact us. We don't know what else to do. Please tell us what you want, and please help us bring my father home. This is the video we received from you. This video was a comfort to the family because it shows us that my father is alive and that he looks healthy.
For my beautiful, my loving, my loyal wife, Christine, and my children, and my grandson, and also for the United States government. I have been held here for 3.5 years. I am not in very good health. I am running very quickly out of diabetes medicine. I have been treated well, but I need the help of the United States government to answer the requests of the group that has held me for 3.5 years. And please help me get home. 33 years of service to the United States deserves something. Please help me.
Bob, I will continue to do everything I can to bring you home alive. All I want is for our family to be whole again. We love you. We miss you every day. We will not abandon you.
So I think that was a good clip, Gibbs, because not only did it include the proof of life video,
Right.
and you really got to hear Bob talking, but one of his sons talked some before that, and then his wife, Christine, talked there at the end. The son essentially saying, to this group, whoever this group is that's holding Bob, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
You got to give us some demands that we can meet to get, our father back. And then Christine essentially saying just that we will not abandon you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, David and Christine both made good points, help us because we've tried to contact you after seeing your video that you sent us, but no one's responding back to us. But we want her dad. We want him back.
Another year would pass with no news on Bob. But on March 6, 2012, the FBI offered up a $1 million reward for information that leads to Bob's safe return home. In September of the same year, Christine made an effort to meet with then Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, but he refused to meet with her. But he did make the following statement, quote, "They told me Bob was in Iran." And of course, the question came up in my mind, what was an American intelligence officer doing in Iran? An individual is lost. How are we supposed to find him among 7 billion people spread across the globe? What we can do is assist, help, and cooperate, which we have been doing. And we are doing as a humanitarian gesture in action. So I think Gibbs, a lot of Americans and other people around the world thought that this guy knew much more than he was letting on.
Yeah, it sounded like a canned statement, something he had prepared for him to read, and he kind of put his own personal twist on it. But at the end of the day, he hit key points on it. And I think he was trying to put them in a good light that we're doing the best we can. But I think he knows more than he's telling for sure.
Well, what really got me was where he was stressing what was an American intelligence officer doing in Iran. That's the line that really got me. I just don't understand why he would ask that question. By all accounts, Bob was not an American intelligence officer at the time that he went missing in 2007, right? He was a private investigator, hired to go to the Middle East to try to figure out this cigarette smuggling thing.
Right.
I thought that was strange.
Unless they have him and interrogated him and asked him certain questions, and he has that information in front of him and has read those reports, but he's claiming they don't know where he's at or anything about him.
But maybe something will come up later on that will make that sentence or that question make more sense. CNN's famed reporter, Christiane Amanpour, interviewed Iranian President Hassan Rouhani in September 2013. And she asked the new president specifically about Bob Levinson, and he responded saying, "First, you mentioned a person I've never heard of. Mr. Levinson, we don't know where he is, who he is. Sometimes you are speaking of people who come before a court of trial, and other times there are people who disappear. It's not a clear question to put these two categories side by side. He is an American who has disappeared. We have no news of him. We do not know where he is. We're willing to help, and all the intelligence services in the region can come together to gather information about him to find his whereabouts. And we're willing to cooperate on that."
But they're pretty stubborn, the Iranian government. You know, this new president pretty much gives the same answer as the previous president of Iran.
But I just thought it was strange that he said, "You mentioned a person I've never heard of." I found that very odd.
Well, yeah, because you think that he definitely has heard of him.
You don't get briefings. That's not something you would be briefed on. Maybe.
Exactly.
Around that same time, President Obama made an effort to speak to the Iranian president about the whereabouts of Bob. He got the same treatment. He got nothing. Stonewall. There were some stories that started to surface, that maybe the Russians had something to do with Bob's disappearance, and they made it look like the Iranians took him. There was a thought, and probably a pretty valid thought, that the Russian mafia was not happy with Bob because over the years, he had caused them quite a bit of trouble. Like we mentioned, in both the U.S. and in Russia. He kind of gummed up some of their works,
yeah.
I think would be the expression.
And I think when you have someone that's been missing for quite a while, I think you turn up every stone you can, and you have to kind of give it some legit thought process to it, right? I mean, you have to kind of analyze it and say, is this true? Could the Russians have played a part in this?
Yeah, I think when the story surfaces, you check into it like you do others. But then in December of 2013, the Washington Post reported that the CIA back in 2007 actually had Bob working for them when he went missing. So apparently they had him looking into the corruption of the Iranian government officials. And the next day, the New York Times ran a very similar story, that it too had discovered that Bob had been paid by the CIA to spy on their behalf. And apparently they had known, both papers had known about this for some time, but they had chose not to run the stories because they thought, it could negatively affect Bob, could hurt Bob.
Absolutely, yeah.
But eventually, I mean, we're talking, it's 2013 now, right? 6 years since he's gone missing. They ran the stories, but, we also go back to what the Iranian president said. Well, does that make more sense now after the story comes out that, Bob was working in some capacity with the CIA?
And I think, yeah, I mean, clearly it's why he said what he did.
Because I believe he knew it.
Yeah.
Even though the government was saying that they'd never heard of Bob.
Yeah.
But they seem to know a lot about him.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. But the U.S. government and the White House responded to these reports by both the Washington Post and the New York Times saying Bob Levinson was not a U.S. government employee when he went missing in Iran. Well, of course he wasn't an employee. He was a contractor.
Yeah.
I mean, are we getting into the whole Iran-Contra thing here, and who knew what, and was this person really working for
terminology,
the CIA?
Yeah.
I think at this point, Bob's family they were conflicted. They started to wonder, if the U.S. was even trying to get Bob back. By this point in time, John Kerry was the U.S. Secretary of State. And he said, there hasn't been much progress in the sense that we don't have him back, but to suggest that we've abandoned him or that anybody has abandoned Bob is simply incorrect, and it's not helpful. The fact is that I have personally raised the issue, not only at the highest level that I have been involved with, but also through our intermediaries. The next week, Salahuddin, the last person to acknowledge seeing Bob Levinson, told the Christian Science Monitor that both he and Levinson were detained by Iranian police on March 9, 2007. He said, "They took me away, and when I left, we were down in the lobby. Bob was surrounded by 4 Iranian police."
So for a government that doesn't know anything about him, looks like they knew things about him.
In January of 2014, Christine and family decided to tell the press that they knew that Bob was working for the CIA because U.S. officials had relayed that information to them almost a year ago. But they continued to say, Gibbs, that they just didn't feel like the U.S. government was doing enough. They weren't being forceful enough in trying to get Bob back.
Yeah, and this is a theme that carries all the way through this case to the very end, as we're continuing to discuss, is that the family just doesn't feel like, one, the communication is great, and two, they just never really feel like the government ever steps up full force to get, Bob back.
Well, for one thing, they told them 6 years later that Bob was actually working for the CIA.
Yeah.
6 years. What's very strange about the timing of Christine and the family coming out to the press is that just the very next day, an Iranian official told CNN, quote, "I have not seen anything that could prove that Bob Levinson was ever in Iran. In fact, we have some evidence that he was last seen outside Iran, with pictures showing that he was outside Iran when he was last seen. It's a very unfortunate case. We've said clearly that we have no knowledge of his whereabouts. We need the United States to explain for Iran what a CIA operative was doing if he was ever in Iranian territory. What was he doing in Iranian territory?" It just keeps coming back to that.
Yeah, I think it's clearly a game.
Yes.
Going back and forth between the two governments.
It's what it seems like, right? The U.S. government didn't want to acknowledge that Bob Levinson was actually working in some capacity for the CIA. Iran officials seem like they already knew it, as evidenced by some of the statements made by, one of the presidents early on. And then every time they make a statement, it's that we don't know anything. U.S., tell us why you had a CIA official in our country.
Exactly.
But other than that, we don't know anything.
We don't know nothing.
We want information.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you any.
Nothing.
Because we don't know it. Over a year after this, not much new activity, right, on Bob's whereabouts. The FBI increased the reward to $5 million.
Yeah, they really push it up there.
Then in January of 2016, the FBI came out and said they believed Bob was still alive and they believed he was being held in Iran, regardless of what any other agency was reporting. This statement came 3 days after a secret prisoner swap occurred under President Obama's orders. Iran returned 4 prisoners, and the U.S. returned Iranian prisoners and large sums of cash. However, none of the U.S. prisoners returned were Bob.
No. There was a lot of controversy about this whole prisoner swap at the time.
I kind of remember it. Not really, because I try not to pay too much attention to politics. In February 2016, the U.S. Senate passed a resolution that acknowledged Bob as the longest held U.S. civilian in U.S. history to be held captive. Now, that's saying something. Now, I think the key there is civilian. Right? You had a lot of POWs in Vietnam that were held for a long time.
Sure.
But Bob's been held for, what, 9 years
Yeah.
at this point? He'd been missing for 4,500 days at that time.
Which meant that he finally surpassed Terry Anderson, which was held captive for a really long time too. But when you look at the numbers, right, when you say, well, Terry Anderson was held for 2,454 days, that's a long time, but not compared to 4,500 days.
No, and I do remember Terry Anderson. I remember him coming home. It was March 6, 1985. Anderson was the Middle East bureau chief for the AP. He was abducted from a street in Beirut, placed in the trunk of a car, and basically taken to a secret location where he was imprisoned. He was held captive for the next 6 years and 9 months, almost 7 years. And they kept moving him around. He was held captive by Hezbollah Shiite Muslims who were supported by Iran in supposed retaliation for Israel's use of U.S. weapons and aid in its 82-83 strikes against Muslim and Druze targets in Lebanon. I think, by far, he was the longest held of the American hostages captured in the effort to drive U.S. military forces from Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War.
And you're right. It was big news back then. I mean, you could see it seemed like almost weekly there was some kind of communication about it on the news.
Yeah, but that was 85, right? And to me, 85 was a much different time. The news, at least in my opinion, was much bigger. You didn't have 8,000 channels. You didn't have podcasts. You didn't have all of this other types of entertainment options.
Right.
What a lot of people did is they watched the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah, on one of the big three stations.
Yep. And here's some audio from a 2016 rally. Bob's family, friends, I think there was even some lawmakers.
Bring Bob home. Bring Bob home. Bring Bob home.
I just miss being around my dad. He makes me a better person. He makes the world a better place. I miss his generosity. He was always generous with his love, with his time, and with his knowledge.
These past 9 years have been a nightmare for our family. The enormous hole in our lives won't be filled until Bob comes home. But I am incredibly proud of our children, all 7 of them, and their wonderful spouses and children.
Bob Levinson is missing, which means that a piece of our community isn't whole, but it means that a piece of our country isn't whole. We have to view Bob Levinson as a member of our own family, because he is. Because when an American citizen is being held and has been held for 9 years, every one of us should feel that in our heart and should feel it in our gut and should be as outraged as all of us here are. Rest until Bob Levinson comes home.
So I think that was some good audio. I mean, you got, his daughter, pouring her heart out, his wife, again, saying what she's always said, let's get Bob home. And then you have what appears to be some lawmakers. Maybe the one was his clergy, but talking about, the good guy Bob is and why Bob needs to come home and the government needs to do what they need to do. Get him back here.
Well, I think from his daughter, what you really feel is the emotion.
Sure.
I mean, that was evident for sure. Christine and the family, after all these years, right? 10 years had gone by. It's 2017. They decided to file suit against the country of Iran in U.S. courts. And they filed it under the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act for injuries suffered by each of them as a result of Iran's unlawful acts of hostage taking, torture, and other torts. So that's interesting. When you think about a U.S. civilian suing another country.
Well, maybe it was part of them with efforts to try to make the Iranian government tell them something,
Yeah, I guess I look at it as, you think the government of Iran is scared to find out that they're being sued by a woman and her kids?
Probably not, but I think, it's a statement.
Yeah, because, who's enforcing this? Whatever ruling comes out of it, I don't know how they're going to make the country of Iran pay up.
Yeah, and I don't know.
It's
how
not
that
like
would
they're
work.
our ally anyway.
Right. I mean, it's like, so if you win the case, I guess you would have to find where the Iranian government had assets within somewhere with the United States or like Puerto Rico or whatever, anything that we have.
I don't know.
Right. I think that'd be very difficult.
I think maybe more than anything, it's symbolic. That you're taking them to task. You're trying to do something. I don't think you're expecting to get money out of it. I don't think Iran is paying you anything.
No, because if they pay you, they're admitting.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what you want is somebody, an impartial judge, to look at all the facts and say, yeah, something's not right here. On December 10th, 2018, a former Air Force intelligence officer named Bob Kent had planned to board a plane in New York for the Middle East on a secret mission to free Bob from Iran. He had $250,000 in cash with him to be used as payoff funds. He needed $100,000 to pay his Iranian scouts for the proof of life package they said they could retrieve, which included blood samples, fingerprints, and then he needed the remaining $150,000 for the rescue efforts. I mean, the more we get into this, Gibbs, the more this is like that movie, Proof of Life.
Yeah, really. With Russell Crowe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Meg Ryan in that
Yep.
one? Okay.
Yep.
I couldn't remember who was in it, but it sounds very similar. I mean, they are just trying repeatedly, right, to get proof of life.
Sure.
But this rescue effort never got off the ground. The U.S. administration denied any waivers for the use of that money as it related to the Iranian government or other governments like them in the area. So the ransom money and the rescue money couldn't go with anyone to the Middle East. That's basically what they're saying.
Sure.
You can't give this money to the Middle East.
That kind of goes around that whole OFAC thing, I mean, just not going to be able to allow U.S. money to benefit any foreign country that we're not friendly with.
But this was just another incident, Gibbs. I think that the family looked at and said, here, once again, the U.S. government is not doing all they can do to get back our loved one, a U.S. citizen that's being held, we believe, in another country. Their attorney said that the last minute abort of this guy's mission, it fit a long pattern of neglect and what he called outright interference in an effort to free Bob. Their attorney told Newsweek, I am continually astounded and dismayed at the failure of the government of the United States through 3 administrations to bring Bob Levinson home. He was taken by enemies of this country while in its service. There is no moral justification for their failure to do what is necessary to bring him home. But the FBI blasted this guy, saying, while we cannot discuss how we handle particular investigations, over the past 12 years, the FBI has worked diligently to follow every credible lead to determine the whereabouts of Bob Levinson and will continue to do so. Bob spent 22 years as an FBI agent, and as we mark the anniversary of his disappearance, our resolve to find him only increases. Over the years, the family heard stories about people wanting to help them out. One such person was a guy named Oleg Deripaska. This guy was some kind of Russian aluminum tycoon.
See, you knew going around picking up all this extra scrap aluminum would eventually pay off.
And he became a tycoon.
Yeah.
The problem is he was sanctioned by the Treasury Department in 2018 for what they called a range of activity around the globe. So apparently he was doing things that they didn't approve of.
Yeah.
But back in 2008, This is just a year after Bob went missing. Oleg said that he was willing to fund a search. And not only that, but he would pay for any ransom.
Must have been one of the few Russians that really liked him.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Isn't it very strange that it happens to be a Russian tycoon that was allegedly into some shady stuff?
Yeah.
Or at least the Treasury Department thought so.
Maybe he's like, hey, Bob took care of the people that were taken from me. Now I'm doing really good. I'm a tycoon. I got all the aluminum in Russia because of Bob, and I'm going to do my thing to return the favor.
I got all the aluminum in Russia.
I got all the aluminum in Russia. I squash you. So we know that the family attorney got a personal meeting with a sanctioned official at the Treasury Department. He was trying to push to get a waiver so they can get this money through to the country and get this show on the road. But at the last minute, the guy canceled on them, and they were back where they were when he started this whole process. Bob Kent was not going to be able to fly into Iran with this money to try to pull this mission off.
Meanwhile, there was another private group trying to help out to find Bob. But this wasn't your typical high-profile, big-time Washington player. It wasn't anybody like that. It was a guy named Walton Martin. Walton was a Philadelphia area truck driver, but he was also a former Marine. I think that's how you say it. I can't remember, Gibbs. There's something I'm not supposed to say because once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. I've been told that numerous times.
Hoo-yah.
Hoo-ah.
Hoo-ah.
Hoo-ah. No, that's Al Pacino.
That's Al Pacino, man.
Hoo-ah. we can't say it. I was never in the Marine, so I can't say it anyway.
Yeah.
But this guy became obsessed with the country of Iran back during the hostage crisis in the late 70s, the early 80s. That was huge, right? I mean, you remember that, Gibbs. Everybody remembers that if they're a certain age.
Yeah.
They're holding all these hostages. They storm the embassy. President Carter's leaving. They won't release the hostages. They don't want to make him look good. Reagan comes in, and all of a sudden, they release the hostages.
Yeah.
This guy did a lot of work, kind of a one-man wrecking crew. Back in the day, he aided Iranian defectors and refugees in Turkey. He actually worked very closely with the UN office in the capital city of Ankara. Over time, this guy developed major contacts in the intelligence community from inside Iran. Some of it related to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's operations.
Which is big, right? That's like our equivalent to the CIA for us.
And he also started to get some tidbits, right, about Bob Levinson's alleged whereabouts. He began sharing this with the FBI, and the FBI was excited. So Walton was getting all this information. He was relaying it to the FBI. They were relaying it on to, according to them, the people that needed to see it or needed to know it. Martin also found ways to get others to work privately on finding Levinson. There was this guy named Joseph O'Brien, a former FBI agent who led the Bureau's 1980 investigation of Paul Castellano, head of the Gambino crime family. This guy considered Levinson a mentor when they worked together in New York. In 2016, O'Brien and another ex-FBI colleague offered the Bureau help on Levinson with their own Iranian exile contacts, but they were rebuffed. Essentially, the FBI told them, no thanks.
Hit the road, Jack.
Yeah, we don't want your help. So these two guys, Martin and O'Brien, they started working together. They were getting their own reports from Iran on where Bob was. They were also getting offers of proof of life.
Which is encouraging, right? If someone's making you an offer, they're saying that you get me the money, I'll get you proof that he's alive. I mean, so they knew that he had to be alive somewhere.
Well, if they were expecting to get the money, they were getting so much good information that the U.S. government wanted to know where they were getting it from. But Martin and O'Brien wouldn't tell them. They were trying to protect their source so that they could keep this good information coming in. But in February of 2018, Martin was required to appear before a grand jury and bring with him all the communications from his sources. But before this could happen, Martin had a pretty stressful meeting with the Justice Department. And in the meeting, he handed over all his information. So the grand jury appearance was canceled.
So I'm guessing during that meeting with the Department of Justice, they rattled his cage enough to put a little fear in him. If you don't cooperate,
You're going before the grand jury.
Yeah.
O'Brien gathered additional information. He sent it over to the Secretary of State and the White House National Security Advisor. But neither one, Martin nor O'Brien, ever heard from the government about their reports, aside from the fact that the government said they were skeptical of their sources.
So they really wanted it pretty bad. Then they get it. Clearly, they're not doing anything with it. And then they're saying, I don't know, your sources are kind of skeptical. We don't really believe the sources. So we're not going to do anything about it.
A former senior intelligence official that handled Iran firmly believes that privately, the U.S. government feels Bob Levinson is dead. But publicly, on the official front, they are maintaining that he's alive. To this point, earlier this month, right, July of 2019, the U.S. government stated an opportunity for the leadership of the government of Iran to demonstrate its commitment to basic freedoms and civil rights and return Mr. Levinson home to his family. But Christine and her family, they continue to come out from time to time, basically saying, Gibbs, that the U.S. government has let them down.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
They firmly believe that,
Yeah, they believe that the government has left Bob behind. They've forgotten about him. They don't care about him. And again, like we said, they've not done everything in their power to get him back. Christina said, my husband served this country tirelessly for decades. He deserves better from all of us and from our government. He deserves our endless pursuit to bring him home, to fight day and night and leave no stone unturned. I don't know what to think about this thing, Gibbs. There's so many mysteries, and, this whole CIA thing has thrown me.
Yeah.
Once they came out and acknowledged that he was in the country doing work on behalf of the CIA, the whole story changed for me. Because when you hear some of these, Iranian officials talk about the fact that, well, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. But why is an intelligence officer in our country?
Right.
Well, how do you know he's in your country if you don't know anything?
Exactly. I think our government at first didn't want to bring up the CIA involvement because they were trying to protect them.
Sure.
And maybe they thought, well, they don't know, so let's not put it out there. It ensures his safety.
It's not going to help Bob for Iran to know that he was working for the CIA.
Yeah, and I think once they knew that Iran knew, then at that point they put it out there. But you just never know what's going on in the background, I mean, it's such a complex situation.
Plus, I don't care, how transparent they're supposed to be. Our government doesn't tell us everything.
It never will.
Never will. Never has. Never will. And if we probably knew everything, people would be running and screaming through the streets.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. No, there's reasons why we don't know and hear everything.
Yeah. But that also creates in a lot of people's minds a great deal of distrust in the government.
Sure.
Because there is a lot of dealings and backroom kind of things going on, and maybe there has to be.
Yeah, I don't think we could ever understand or justify in our world, in our thought process, the trading of lives. Who comes, who goes, who's valued more, less.
Yeah, I look at it this way. As we're wrapping up, it has been now 12 years, right? Since Bob Levinson disappeared. 12 years.
Long time.
if he is really alive, and I'd love to believe that he is for his family, and there was any way possible that the U.S. government could have gotten him back, I can't believe they haven't done it.
Right.
It leads me to believe that the likelihood is he's not, because I just think it's too long. 12 years is such a long time. Nobody has ever been held that long.
No.
Well, no civilian has ever been held that long, but was he a civilian?
Right.
I think that's the thing. And that's where that CIA mystery kind of really discombobulates everything for me.
I just found it to be a really interesting story, case. And, you just wish the family could know what's going on with them. Is my dad, husband, friend alive?
I will say this. You have to have some cojones to go into some of these countries that, number one, they can't stand us.
Oh, of course.
And number two, they are well known for kidnapping people and ransoming them back to their country, their family. You are really risking a lot.
Yeah.
To get, to go into some of these countries just to work. Not to mention, if you're doing something for the CIA or whatever. But that's it. That's the story of the disappearance of Robert Levinson. I mean, technically, it's open. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
There has been no determination that I'm aware of. I mean, his family has not, as far as I know, Gibbs had him declared legally dead. And I don't think they will, from what I hear from them in their speeches. I don't think they'll ever give up to the day they die.
Oh, I believe you.
I don't think they'll ever give up looking for their husband, their dad. I just don't think they will. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Yeah, let's hear them.
Hey guys, my name is Kaylee Harris, and I'm calling you all the way from New Brunswick, Canada. I love both of your podcasts. I've been binging them nonstop. My boyfriend thinks I might have a little bit of a problem, but I can't get over them. You guys are awesome, and thank you for all that you do, and keep your own time ticking. See you later. Bye-bye.
Well, we appreciate that very much. You tell your boyfriend you do not have a problem, and if you have a problem, that means tens of millions of other people have a major problem.
Yeah. Then what are we going to do about it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Then
because there are a lot of people binging true crime.
Oh.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Caitlin Maddox from Alabama. My mom and I love your podcast. I binged all of TCAT for the last 2 months, and I've just finished. So now I'm going to start the Unsolved. Keep up the good work and keep your own time ticking. Team TCAT.
There's our friend Caitlin.
Yep. Love Caitlin. So I put this on Unsolved because I know eventually she'll get there.
Yeah.
It may be a while. Well, it depends on how quick. Some people binge very quickly.
Yeah, they do.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. This is Andy in Memphis. Just want to say I'm a long-time listener. Listen to every episode of TCAT and TCAT Unsolved, and I love what you guys do. Secondly, I want to compliment Gibby. His accents, they are spot on. I listen to your episodes in 1 minute. I'm on a vineyard in Italy, to the outback of Australia, or the rocky slopes of England. Oh my God, he's got it just nailed perfect. Anyway, love what you guys do. And speaking of, as far as accents go, anytime I hear somebody say something Australian or watch something, with the accent, no, I can't remember what it was. I've been laughing about it too long. But anyway, love what you guys are doing. Thanks. Bye.
Love it. That Rosetta Stone for accents that I bought you is really paying off.
It's a paying off of good money, miss.
So Rosetta Stone, it doesn't teach you how to speak any of the languages. It just teaches you how to do the accents.
That's exactly right.
Of all these different countries.
Yes.
So I got a kick out of that.
That was funny.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. My name is Stacey. I'm calling from Massachusetts. Big time fan. I had a couple of things I wanted to leave on your voicemail. First, I just listened to your episode on Carla, the big bad biker chick. You guys kept talking about the motorcycles in the living room. As a child of a multi-generation of bikers, I do not have a single memory of a single house I ever lived in where we did not have a motorcycle in our living room, either apart, being put together. Yeah, always. The other thing is, Mike, you're always making fun of Gibby for the way he pronounces cousins. Cousins. Have you guys ever seen the show Letterkenny on Hulu? That is how they say cousins. It is wicked funny. Anyways, thank you for all your hard work. Love the podcast. Have a great rest of your day and keep your own time ticking.
All right, love it. I have never seen Letterkenny. I have Hulu, so I can look at it, look it up. But
Hulu.
What made me laugh about her voicemail is she was saying, you know, Mike, you make fun of Gibby about the way he says. She couldn't say it wrong. She really had to work to say it incorrectly. But she said it right the first time.
She did it wicked good.
How you like them apples?
Yeah.
Hi, I really enjoy y'all's podcast and listen to it at work almost every day. I would love to hear the Molly Miller case covered. She went missing out of Ardmore, Oklahoma several years ago, and I think it'd be a really interesting case for y'all to cover. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to check into that one.
Absolutely.
Molly Miller. I'm not familiar. We'll have to make sure it's on the list. The one thing I will say is we're kind of winding down here. So 5 little voicemails. They were short.
Right.
The span of accents in just those 5 voicemails.
Mm-hmm.
And there weren't really, you know, outside of Canada, there weren't any from Australia or anything like that. Just the ones in the United States.
Yeah.
We really have a wide range of accents. It's cool.
Y'all would do.
All right. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.